Hi everybody, this is Judy at Judy in the Kitchen. Today we're continuing our summary of Dr. Michael Greger's book, How Not to Die. And this is how not to die from the leading causes of death, not only in the United States, but in many countries around the world. And this summary, this video, my series of videos does not substitute for reading the book. I highly recommend that you get this book and read it. It's full of valuable information. Today we're covering chapters 7 and 8, starting with chapter 7, How Not to Die from High Blood Pressure. High blood pressure can damage a lot of organ systems in the body and increase the risk of heart disease and stroke, which are the two leading causes of death, making hypertension the leading risk factor worldwide. The two leading dietary contributors toward hypertension are not enough fruit and too much salt. So, what not to do? First point, don't eat chicken, or at least don't oversalt it. Most of us are not aware that the poultry industry commonly injects chicken carcasses with salt water to artificially inflate their weight. Such chicken can still be labeled as being 100% natural. Consumer Reports found that a single serving of such chicken can contain as much as 840 milligrams of sodium, which is substantial considering most people add salt to their chicken while cooking it. Next point on what not to do. Don't overdo eating pizza or processed foods. Pizza is the #1 source of sodium for American children and teenagers. A mere one slice can contain half the recommended sodium limit for one day. Processed foods are extremely high in sodium, whether they taste salty or not. Food manufacturers have tweaked their food formulas so they keep you coming back for more. They truly are addictive. And adding salt is one key that makes this happen. So you want to beware and read your labels or just limit what you have for sure. Next point, do not add salt to your food at the table. It's well established. Most of the sodium in the American diet comes from processed foods and salt added during cooking, not at the table. But a good first step in retraining your taste buds and your habits is to remove the salt shaker from the table. That will help give the cook some credit. Next point, don't add salt to your foods while cooking. This is a hard one for a lot of chefs, but by adding more other flavorings to our food, like the herbs and spices that are already being put in a particular dish, we can slowly realize that food can taste good even without salt. It does take time to retrain your taste buds, and we need to understand that salt is a flavor enhancer. So why not enhance the flavor of your food with more of these herbs and spices, the other seasonings that you would put in a dish? Just add more of them and cut the salt and try that out. It's worth giving it a try. I have, and it works. Next point on what to do. Look for the sodium in your foods and deliberately reduce your sodium intake. Read labels. First, it's important to understand that salt and sodium are not quite the same thing. Sodium is a component of salt. Sodium can be found in a lot of natural whole foods and should be counted, that sodium should be counted toward your daily sodium intake. We should be looking at more than just salt alone. But the biggest source of dietary sodium is added salt. It is highly concentrated in processed foods and restaurant fare, and also added to foods during cooking at home and at the table. So if we can reduce our sodium intake by reducing our salt to within recommended dietary guidelines, it's an important step in reducing high blood pressure. Next point, omit processed foods. Americans eat way too much processed foods. Such foods are extremely loaded with added salt and sodium-containing ingredients. The combination of fat, sugar, and salt is addictive, and food processors really know it. Therefore, they build their food formulas around that special combination so people get hooked on their food, so it's hard to break the habit. It's not impossible to break the habit, but it does take conscious efforts and sheer determination. Next point, you want to give it time. It takes time to allow the taste buds to readjust from reducing salt and excess sodium in the diet. After a few weeks, the taste buds will start to change, and you should notice the distinct flavors in foods that you didn't notice before. Over time, you'll actually prefer less salt in your foods, or when you taste something that's salty, it's really going to taste salty to you. Next point, choose whole grains instead of refined. Whole grains like whole wheat, brown rice, millet, sorghum, whole buckwheat have a complex of nutrients provided by Mother Nature. Refined grains have most of those nutrients stripped away, so there is little left except the inner starch, the endosperm of the grain. The fiber and key nutrients in the germ have been removed. In the enrichment process, a smattering of nutrients are sprayed on the grain. When comparing white rice, for example, with brown rice, white rice has nowhere near the nutritional value as its whole counterpart. The same is true for all whole versus refined grains. Whole is important. Next point, include flax seeds in your diet. Ground flax seeds have been shown to have the biggest blood pressure lowering effects found by dietary interventions. Eating only a few tablespoons a day appears to be 2 to 3 times more powerful than adopting an aerobic endurance exercise program. Furthermore, flax seeds have been shown in clinical studies to help control cholesterol, triglycerides, and blood sugar levels as well, along with reducing inflammation and treating constipation. Next point, drink hibiscus tea. A research study at Tufts University found that 3 cups a day, like 1 cup per meal, of hibiscus tea significantly lowered blood pressure in hypertensive adults. Next point, eat more antioxidant-rich and nitrate-rich fruits and vegetables. Foods like berries, beans, beets, and leafy greens can help to boost nitric oxide in the body. This special compound signals blood vessels to relax, allowing them to open up for increased blood flow. This, in turn, will naturally lower your blood pressure. Eating a large salad with mixed greens every day is an easy way to achieve that goal. Next chapter, Chapter 8, How Not to Die from Liver Disease. The liver is responsible for many vital functions, from removing toxins from the blood to refining nutrients so they can be properly utilized by the body, and many, many more functions than that. What not to do, and I think this one most people know: avoid drinking alcohol. Excessive alcohol can lead to a fatty liver, which can cause inflammation that scars the liver and eventually leads to liver failure. According to the CDC, excessive drinking is regularly consuming more than 1 drink a day for women and more than 2 drinks a day for men. So, what's a drink? A drink is 12 ounces of beer, 8 ounces of malt liquor, 5 ounces of wine, or 1.5 ounces of hard liquor, as in a shot. If you drink alcohol and really care about your health, do your best to stop the habit. Next point, avoid fast food. The film Super Size Me and a Swedish study both demonstrated that a regular diet of fast food can quickly deteriorate a person's liver function. Because fast food is such an integral part of the Western diet, it's no wonder that alcoholic fatty liver disease has become the most common cause of chronic liver disease in America. Breaking the fast food habit can help to avoid this serious chronic illness. Next point, reduce or preferably omit animal foods. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease may also be caused by cholesterol overload. Animal foods are the only foods that contain cholesterol. The cholesterol in eggs, meat, and dairy products can become oxidized and spark a chain reaction that results in excess fat in the liver. When the concentration of cholesterol in the liver gets too high, it can crystallize. Then our white blood cells engulf the crystals, but they die in the process, resulting in inflammation. This may evolve into a case of serious hepatitis. Researchers found that cholesterol consumption is a strong predictor of cirrhosis and liver cancer. To help avoid non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, it appears that avoiding excess calories, cholesterol, saturated fat, and sugar is the way to go. Next point, don't eat pork. The hepatitis E virus has been associated with pork. Initially, the virus was associated with eating pork liver. But more recently, it's been found in pork flesh, which explains why a high prevalence of the hepatitis E virus antibodies have been found in American blood donors. Infection with the hepatitis E virus can cause serious, if not fatal, liver disease. What to do? First point, replace refined grains with whole grains in the diet. We see a lot of commonalities among these points here. Researchers have found that refined grains were associated with an increased risk of inflammation that leads to fatty liver disease, while demonstrating that consumption of whole grains, in the case of the research they used oatmeal, reduced the risk of liver inflammation. Choosing whole grains and whole grain products over refined would be a wise choice in helping to ward off liver disease. Next point, if you're a coffee drinker, enjoy it black and unsweetened. In a 2013 review of studies on the effects of coffee, researchers found that those who drank the most coffee had half the risk of liver cancer compared with those who drank the least. Another study found that 4 or more cups of coffee a day was associated with a 92% lower risk among smokers dying from chronic liver disease. In short, black, unsweetened coffee consumption has been associated with a reduced risk of liver inflammation. It is important to note that coffee can be addictive because of its caffeine content. So use caution if you plan to increase your intake of coffee. Well, I do hope this information helps you out. Yes, you will see some commonalities from chapter to chapter on what to do and what not to do. It's based on research, folks. Give it some serious thought. Let me know if you have any questions or comments below. Take care and bye for now.